I'm seeing the image of you holding a flower that has only 4 petals when it's meant to have 5. And you're searching for the 5th petal and focusing on that gap instead of the other 4 petals that are there. And that's the first predictable aspect of this message, which is that it would serve you to focus on the aspects of what is already present and what you can already appreciate in order to cultivate more of that, rather than focusing on what you lack or what you wished you had. But then the image expands to you standing in a field of the exact same flower, all of them having 5 petals. And that complicates the question, because why aren't you picking up a different flower? What is it that is keeping you tied to the one you currently have whilst focusing on its shortcomings, when the option is there to pick up something completely new? And when I focus more deeply on the other flowers in the field, they all contain the symbol of a yellow spiral in the center. And as I focus more deeply onto this, it makes me feel a fearful emotion, or the sense that the idea of picking up something new, maybe you've had it in the back of your mind and you've been avoiding the thought, moving to a whole new place, ending a relationship, ending a job. I sense that the reason you fear this is because you're concerned that it will spiral you deeper into the chaos of who you already are. There's a sinking feeling in the heart space and the solar plexus. And then I'm flooded with further feelings such that I can't even read them fast enough. A sense of shame and guilt about who you are, or the idea that this is something that you continually do. It's reminding me of the first reading about failures and the feeling that you particularly repeat failures and you've started to believe that that's who you are. And while these are incredibly valid feelings that may make you feel isolated and protective of your future path, the logic of that way of thinking is what's standing out to me here. Because if you're holding this flower that you're unhappy with, it's not going to grow another petal, and the sense that you're dissatisfied, well, now there's 2 paths opening up to me. The option is that you learn how to deeply satisfy yourself with this flower that you already have, or you come to terms with the fact that every new venture may certainly involve a deeper spiral into your own patterned chaos. And maybe this has more to do with the way that you think, because being an infinite being, maybe with a shape-shifting nature, you are going to thrive and yearn for continued learning and growth. And if you can accept that about yourself and see it for the beauty that it does bring, then maybe that too is a type of 4-petaled flower, where the 5th petal is the stage in the journey where you feel disappointed that this wasn't a long-term venture. And the act of trying something new or starting fully fresh should be one that is focused on with joy and excitement rather than shame, guilt, identification with an idea of failure. These are all just concepts and comparisons that you have in your head between yourself and other people. And again, it's the fear of what other people think more than it is about your true embodied experience of these new ventures and potentially these new ventures failing. Because the problem, the true problem, is apparent in both situations. The situation where you stay holding the flower you're dissatisfied with, and the situation where you leave and try something new. Because the problem is your neurotic thinking about who you are and the way that you allow yourself to consistently fall back into shame and guilt. And now the word discipline is coming up. And so it seems that you're highly aware that you appear to lack discipline by trying on these new things and going on these new adventures. But the discipline you're lacking is with your own thoughts. It is with what happens in your head and the way that you think about yourself and the way that you allow yourself to imagine what other people are thinking of you. You need to cut that off. You need to stop orienting your place in the world by adding up every other person's perception of you and then trying to match the average of what it is. You need to side with yourself and support yourself. And though it is incredibly difficult, find a place in you that accepts the nature of your engine, that wants to search, that wants to grow, that wants to explore and learn. And it doesn't want to be tied to the same rigor that most humans are comfortable in. And though you see that for yourself, long-term stability, financial growth, relational support, your spirit does not want to grant you that until you fully accept the nature of its frivolity. This is a childlike, joyous and fun, explorative spirit, and it's very natural. And a part of you does see it that way. Because if you think about it, if you could come to terms with that part of yourself, if you really loved that part of you, you would see that there is a viable future where consistency and stability is portable. You take it with you like a temple. It's in your routine. It's in your self-belief. And those are the foundations that will allow you to find routine and support wherever you go. It's totally viable for you to make money on the move. It's totally viable for you to have a partner who wants to do this with you or is willing to weave in and out of your life. It's entirely viable for you to find a way of living that feels as solid in the long term as being in one single place and growing there. Instead of thinking of that long-term stability as something outside yourself, because that's what other people do. They find comfort and routine in the pattern of the outside. You have to call all of those factors and those feelings into your body and find them within yourself so that you can carry them around. And that is so much more wise than the perception of stability that is granted the way that most people find it, because nothing is truly stable. Anyone can lose their job tomorrow. Everybody is susceptible to death and chaos. And just because you're choosing that, it doesn't make you chaotic. It makes you strong. And through experience, you're going to find that, but you must let go of the self-punishment in your thoughts. So here's the practical aspect of this guidance. I'm being taken back to this yellow spiral, and the feeling in my solar plexus is coming up again. The word is vigilance. So vigilance is the paranoia that drives actions of fear and self-protection. And likely you're constantly trying to plan for a future that collapses on you, and the realm or the paradigm doesn't want you to live like that. And some deep part of you wants to learn how to trust yourself in pure uncertainty. So to do that, you need to train your body to stop honoring the anxious thoughts. You need to be vigilant about your vigilance. Whenever an action feels to be coming from a place of self-protection or avoidance or preparation for the future, or it serves to address some kind of anxious, preoccupied thought, that is vigilance at work. And you'll feel it in your solar plexus, or maybe in your thoracic spine, sort of in the center of your back, as if there's something that's creeping up on you and making you move before you're ready. Any thoughts that begin with, I have to do this, I better do this, those thoughts lend themselves to actions that are driven out of anxiety. And when you do that, you start to train the universe to give you more of that. Or really, you're training your own body to reward itself for that behavior. The anxiety is making you feel safe. The paranoia is making you feel safe because it's the only consistent thing you have. It's your idea of certainty in chaos, because if you didn't have those paranoid thoughts, your experience of the world would be different day to day. So notice how you've turned vigilance into a friend, how because you're aware of the fact that your soul deeply doesn't want to grant you the safety of external false stability, you have created a temple of stability within your own body through anxiety. The anxiety itself is making you feel safe. It's creating a cage that you can hold on to wherever you go. And you absolutely do not need that cage anymore. A final practical exercise that you can do with this vigilance is to talk to it. Talk to the part of you that generates the anxious thoughts. Find where it sits in your body and tell it, thank you so much for everything you've done to protect me and to make me feel safe. But now I want you to stand behind me on guard. It doesn't have to leave, but it can do the job that it was always meant to do, which is to protect you in times of genuine, primal urgency, in real danger. And that's your intuition working how it should. So allow it to stand as a guard behind you 2 meters in the distance instead of right inside of your own stomach. That's your message for the day. Thank you for being here. Be brave, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you in the next reading.